Welcome to Macau again, Dr. Grant. Why don't you tell us a bit about the training?
Okay. Well, as the material online shows, there's 4 parts to the training. There's a beginning workshop, going to look at kind of the differences between the Chinese and the Western self-structure. And the second one would be to, second part would be to help participants learn more about what it means to use Western psychological approaches with both Western people and Chinese individuals, because going to have different reactions with those populations based on how they're organized in terms of their self-structure. And I don't think people in Macau or China realize that these therapeutic approaches are not designed for the way Chinese are organized or their value systems. And they're using them indiscriminately because they don't know what other options they have in ways that either don't work or have minimal effect, or they're transforming into supportive forms of psychotherapy, what many of them weren't designed to do. They were designed to go at a deeper level and affect people on a structural level. And then the third one is going to be an advanced workshop, more looking at the Chinese self in detail than was mentioned in the first workshop. I'll mention that, but I'm going to go into it in much greater detail and talk about many other dimensions of the Chinese self-structure, including the shadow dimensions, how people are organized internally. Also, in the first workshop, I'm going to talk about the socially constructed dimensions of self, more the behavioral self. But in the advanced workshop, I'm going to talk a lot more about the intrapsychic organizations of the Chinese self. And then the fourth phase, the last phase, which is the most kind of intense, is to help therapists understand the impacts on their own identity structure by working with these therapeutic modalities and how it affects Chinese. Because they're having to become not Chinese to use these Western approaches, so it's going to have the same impact on their self-structure as it is on the clients. And also how to use those impacts and monitor them such that they can support and understand their clients better, because they're going to be going through a parallel process that the therapist is going through.
Thank you. I think people kind of understand if they read the website, yeah. So, but it's good to hear directly from you. How about if you just use a very simple way to let people know when they want to decide if they should participate in the workshops or the group training, how are they gonna decide?
Okay, good question. I know it's a big time commitment to go to all 4, but we try to arrange a lot of it on non-working hours so that people who really wanted to come to everything could come. But I know it's also an investment of money as well. So the 2 workshops, the beginning and the advanced, are primarily theoretical. And I'm going to work hard to give participants a chance to discuss amongst themselves and translate a lot of these Western terminology, especially in regard to object relations and intrapsychic structural components. So if they can come to those workshops, the advanced the group trainings and the advanced group training will be a lot easier because they'll have the theoretical background. It's not essential. We can do something to help them, but they're going to be at somewhat of a disadvantage, and I can't keep explaining things to them that I explain to others in the workshop. But I can do some of it, but not maybe to the degree they need. So I would say if they're really just wanting to open up these topics, then the 2 workshops would be the way to go. But if they're ready and willing and wanting to learn how to apply this knowledge to clients, both in terms of Western structures and how using Western therapeutic structures affect themselves, their own identity structure, and clients, then the advanced, the group trainings would be important. And again, the second training, or the first group training, emphasizes more what Western therapeutic approaches assume when working with a client, because those assumptions don't necessarily apply to Chinese individuals, because they're based on Western values of psychopathology, self-structure, and cultural values. For example, asking questions, telling people that you want them to reflect on why they do things, like why questions, and making sense of why they're having the emotional reactions that they do. Those are built into Western psychotherapeutic practices, but they're unfamiliar requests to Chinese individuals. They often even feel shameful, you know, embarrassing, uncomfortable, because people aren't usually asked to do this in normal everyday life with Chinese individuals. In fact, if you actually do it, you're considered to be rude or insensitive. So that's why, again, I don't think people realize that all the values that are behind Western approaches to therapy that are actually in some ways counter-indicated for Chinese individuals. So that's the first group training. The second one is how to use those to monitor how you're affected by that, and also develop kind of a bicultural version of self, so that you can get more comfortable being a bit Western when you're working with Chinese clients, because they're moving in that direction whether they want to or not. Western influence is coming, and most of the people who come to therapy are already somewhat Westernized, because psychotherapy has stigma in China and it's unfamiliar to most people. They would seek a traditional healer or a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, not a psychotherapist. They would only go there or to a psychiatrist when they're really in trouble, like really having psychological problems.
So let me ask you a why question now. So why would you come up with this topic at this time?
Well, I've been to Macau 3 times, and each time that I've gone there, I've reflected a lot on how people have reacted to my work. Okay, that's one thing. And then I've also done several group supervisions, and I've gotten to know people on a deeper level. And I've been continually surprised and curious about how they react to my approach, which is kind of Western in the extreme, even though I've been in the East and I understand cultural issues. My therapeutic style is pretty Western. So I've been really struck by how people react and how people get nervous and anxious and scared, and sometimes even maybe psychologically break down a little bit because of my intensity or the way I ask questions or the things I want them to look at, like intrapsychic issues and how their clients make them feel when they're being objectified. Because a lot of times they feel funny, but they don't realize that that's an intrapsychic structure that the client is projecting onto them. But they don't understand that, they don't think in these ways. So I thought, okay, now I think I'm ready to explain it in a way that people can understand and work with. And several of the people that were in the group supervisions, if they come, they're familiar with this somewhat, so it won't be such a hard transition, so they can help the group also if people need somebody in the group to translate for them what I'm trying to get at or what I'm saying. Okay, the other thing is I've lived and worked in Asia for the last 15 years, and I've become really aware that there's a major difference between how Asian people and Western people relate to one another and how they're organized internally. This is something I've always wanted to tackle or try to articulate, but I wasn't sure if I could do it. It's kind of complicated, there's not a lot written, I can't get dialogue with too many people. But now I feel I can do it. Now I feel I think I've got it to some degree. So I'm not saying I've got it all mapped out, but I think that I can make a really good introduction and hopefully stimulate other Chinese therapists to start asking questions about these cultural and intrapsychic differences.
Okay, thank you very much. We're very excited to have you come again.
Oh, great, I really look forward to it, and I hope people will keep referring to the website if they have more questions based on what I've said, because I wrote it out with you fairly clearly, I think.